Family said my husband left me for someone younger. They didn't know about the deployment. The Easter ham glistened on my mother's dining table, honey-glazed and perfect, just like the lie my family had been feasting on for 6 months. I sat at my assigned seat, the same chair I'd occupied since childhood, now with an conspicuously empty space beside it, while my relatives served themselves heaping portions of sympathy along with their mashed potatoes. My name is Diana Mitchell, and I was 32 years old, watching my family perform a passion play of pity that they'd rehearsed for months without knowing they'd been given the wrong script. Poor Diana, Aunt Caroline announced to the table, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Abandoned for a 20-year-old. Men are such cliches, aren't they? The table murmured in agreement. My cousin Beth reached over to pat my hand with the kind of condescension reserved for failed women and broken appliances. You're handling it so well. I'd be a mess if Todd left me for someone barely out of college. I took a sip of wine and said nothing. Just like I'd said nothing for 6 months. My mother, Helen, carved the ham with aggressive precision, each slice an indictment of my absent husband. I always knew Marcus had a wandering eye. All those deployments, all that time away. It was only a matter of time. He's probably in Cabo, Uncle Richard chimed in, helping himself to green beans. That's where they all go with their midlife crisis girlfriends. Saw it on Facebook, Marcus and some blonde thing, all over each other. That was interesting. Considering Marcus didn't have Facebook and had been prohibited from social media for operational security reasons, someone was having quite the creative writing exercise. Diana should file for divorce immediately, my sister Lauren declared. She'd been gunning for this position since my wedding day, when Marcus had gently declined her drunk advances. Take him for everything. The house, the pension, everything. Already got her the papers, my brother-in-law Dale added proudly. My lawyer says abandonment is grounds for. The doorbell rang. I'll get it, I said, rising from my chair with calm deliberation. Sit down, honey, my mother insisted. You don't need to serve everyone. You've been through enough. But I was already walking to the door, my heart pounding with anticipation and something else, the dark satisfaction of a 6-month wait about to end. I opened the door, and there he stood. Marcus, 6'3" of United States Marine, wearing his dress blues with rows of ribbons I'd memoized like a prayer. The Purple Heart was new, pinned precisely over his left chest. His cover was under his arm, his hair regulation perfect, and the scar running from his temple to his jaw was still pink and healing. Sorry I'm late, baby, he said, his voice carrying through to the dining room. The convoy hit an IED outside Kandahar, but I made it home for Easter. The silence behind me was absolute. A fork clattered onto china. Marcus stepped through the doorway, and I fell into him, breathing in the scent of his cologne mixed with aircraft fuel and hospital disinfectant. His arms came around me, solid and real and home. Did you tell them? He whispered into my hair. I thought a surprise would be more educational, I whispered back. We walked hand in hand into the dining room, where my family sat frozen like a Renaissance painting titled The Last Supper of Assumptions. Aunt Caroline's mouth hung open, revealing partially chewed ham. My mother stood holding the carving knife like she'd forgotten what it was for. Lauren had gone pale enough to match the tablecloth. Marcus, my mother finally managed. But we thought. 13-month classified deployment, Marcus said simply, pulling out his chair, the one they'd all insisted would stay empty forever. Diana couldn't say where I was or when I'd be back. Operational security. But Richard saw you on Facebook, Beth protested weakly. With a blonde. Uncle Richard was studying his plate like it contained the secrets of the universe. That's interesting, Marcus said mildly. Considering I've been at Walter Reed for the past 2 months learning to walk again after taking shrapnel to my left leg. Diana's been driving up every weekend, but I asked her not to tell anyone until I could come home on my own 2 feet. I pulled out my phone, swiping to the photos I'd taken but never shared. Marcus in his hospital bed, leg elevated, surrounded by other wounded warriors. Marcus taking his first steps on a prosthetic. Marcus receiving his Purple Heart from a general while I stood beside him in the same black dress I wore now. You knew. Lauren's voice cracked. This whole time, you knew where he was. Of course I knew, I said evenly. I'm his wife. I also knew he was in Syria before that, and Yemen before that, and 6 other places I still can't name. But classification meant I couldn't tell you. And after the first few weeks of everyone assuming he'd left me, I decided to see how far you'd take it. We were trying to support you, my mother said weakly. No, I said. You were enjoying it. Every Sunday dinner, every family gathering, you've been serving my imaginary abandonment as the main course. Lauren printed divorce papers. Dale contacted lawyers. Aunt Caroline told her entire book club I'd been left for a younger woman. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. Diana sent me recordings, he said conversationally, to keep my spirits up during recovery. Interesting listening. Especially the parts where you called me weak, unfaithful, and, what was it, Richard? Probably shacked up with some foreign piece he found overseas. Richard had shrunk so far into his chair he was practically two-dimensional. But the Facebook. Beth tried one more time. I made that account, Richard admitted in a strangled voice. Used some random military guy's photos. Thought it would help Diana move on if she thought he'd moved on first. The room exploded. You what? My mother's carving knife pointed at Richard like an accusation. You fabricated evidence of my abandonment. I stood, my voice deadly quiet. You created a fake profile of my husband cheating while he was bleeding in a classified location defending the country. Marcus pulled me back down gently. It's okay, DI. We knew someone was creating fiction. My CO actually found it during a security sweep. Richard's going to have an interesting conversation with some federal investigators about impersonating service members online. Richard's face went from red to white to green in rapid succession. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority of a man who'd led Marines through 3 tours. Diana and I are going to sit here and enjoy Easter dinner. You're going to pass the potatoes and make small talk about the weather. And then we're going to leave, and you're going to think very carefully about how you want to proceed with our relationship. You can't just, Lauren started. I can, Marcus interrupted. I've spent 6 months in combat zones and 2 months in hospitals. I've earned the right to eat Easter dinner with my wife without listening to people who supposedly love her celebrate my imaginary infidelity. He turned to my mother. Helen, Diana told me you make excellent honey ham even while telling everyone your son-in-law is trash. I'd love to try some. My mother, on autopilot, served him a generous portion. The table remained silent except for the clink of serving spoons. Finally, Aunt Caroline, queen of gossip and destroyer of reputations, cleared her throat. Marcus, I owe you an apology. You owe Diana an apology, he corrected. I was doing my job. She was here, surrounded by family who preferred her as a victim rather than a military spouse dealing with classified deployments. We didn't know, Beth started. You didn't ask, I said simply. Not once in 6 months did anyone ask if there might be another explanation. You all just assumed the worst and ran with it. Dale, the would-be divorce lawyer facilitator, shifted uncomfortably. How were we supposed to know? Marcus pulled out his phone, showing a screenshot. This is Diana's Facebook from 4 months ago. She posted a yellow ribbon with "Waiting for my hero." You commented, Dale, stop living in denial. This from a month ago, he continued, swiping. Diana shared an article about supporting deployed troops. Lauren, you commented, maybe focus on supporting yourself instead. Each swipe was another nail in the coffin of their fabricated narrative. But the best one, Marcus said, his voice hardening, is this group chat Beth added Diana to called Diana's Divorce Support Squad, where you all shared creative theories about where I was and who I was with. I pulled out my own phone. My personal favorite was Aunt Caroline's suggestion that Marcus had gone native and married a teenager in Afghanistan. The racism really added that special touch to your concern for my well-being. Caroline had the grace to look mortified. We're leaving, I announced, standing. Marcus rose with me, his slight limp the only sign of his injury. But first, I want you all to know something. While you were crafting your narrative of my abandonment, Marcus was leading a mission to extract civilian aid workers from a conflict zone. The convoy that hit the IED? They were protecting a girls' school from extremists. 3 Marines died. Marcus nearly lost his leg making sure children could get an education. I picked up my purse. So while you were enjoying your fantasy of my failure, he was bleeding for strangers' freedom. And I was driving to Walter Reed every weekend, holding his hand through surgeries, keeping his spirits up while he learned to walk again, all while maintaining operational security and listening to you vultures circle what you thought was my corpse of a marriage. Marcus put his arm around me. Thank you for dinner, he said formally. We'll see ourselves out. As we walked to the door, my mother called out, Diana, please. We're family. I turned back. Family doesn't hope for your failure. Family doesn't create evidence of your abandonment. Family asks, are you okay? And means it, instead of asking did he leave you, and hoping the answer is yes. We left them sitting at that table, surrounded by food that probably tasted like ash and assumptions that had curdled into shame. In the car, Marcus finally let his composure crack. 6 months, Diana. How did you stand it for 6 months? Same way you stood 13 months in combat zones, I said, taking his hand. One day at a time, knowing it would end, and documenting everything for the aftermath. He laughed, the sound filling the car like music. Remind me never to underestimate military spouses. Remind me, I countered, to send Uncle Richard's fake Facebook profile to your CO. I believe impersonating a service member is a federal crime. It is indeed, Marcus grinned. Though I think the family shame might be punishment enough. My phone buzzed with texts. Mom, Lauren, Beth, all variations of we need to talk and please understand. I turned the phone to silent and looked at my husband, my faithful, deployed, wounded, decorated husband who'd come home just in time to show my family that their sympathy was really just schadenfreude in a Easter dress. Chinese food. I suggested. That place you love is open. God, yes, he said. And Diana, thank you for not telling them. The reveal was worth every second of their gossip. You know what the best part is? I said as we drove away from my mother's house. Aunt Caroline's book club meets tomorrow. She's going to have to explain how the abandoned wife she's been discussing for 6 months actually has a war hero husband who was serving his country. Marcus squeezed my hand. I love you, you brilliant, patient, vengeful woman. I love you too, you dramatic, perfectly timed Marine. The Chinese restaurant was nearly empty, perfect for a quiet Easter dinner for two. As we ate, Marcus showed me photos from his deployment, the ones he could share now, and I showed him the journal I'd kept of every slight, every assumption, every cruel comment disguised as concern. We could write a book, he joked. How I let my family think I was abandoned while my husband saved lives. Too long, I said. How about Easter Resurrection, a Marine story? We laughed until the other diners stared, two people who'd survived deployment, wounds, and worst of all, family assumptions, together. That night, I posted a single photo on Facebook, Marcus and me at the Chinese restaurant, his purple heart visible, our wedding rings catching the light. The caption read, Happy Easter from the Mitchells. Both of us. The comments section exploded within minutes. But I didn't read them. I was too busy holding my husband, who was home, whole enough, and worth more than all their sympathy combined. Some secrets are kept for national security. Others are kept to see exactly who your family really is when they think you're at your lowest. Both kinds of secrets, when revealed, change everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, the revelation comes dressed in Marine Corps blues, carrying a purple heart and the perfect timing of someone who knows that the best entrance is the one nobody sees coming.